Well, today we are privileged to have with us Dr. Kizzie Shako, a woman of many fasts and one who you definitely need to know. She is a forensic practitioner and a human rights defender, particularly very interested in women and children's rights. We'll talk about that later, and I don't want to finish everything because we have her live on her standards. Now, if you want to get in touch with us, you want to talk to us, you have a question, a comment for Dr. Kizzie Shako, you can talk to us directly at KTN Home across all platforms, or talk to me directly at Queenie Mbori on Facebook and Instagram, or Queenie Saina on Twitter. We also have a page for you, actually. You can also connect with us at Quinta Mbori on Facebook, and make sure you get to experience all the previous episodes of Her Standards and every other thing that happens behind the scenes. You don't want to miss that. So without further ado, allow me to bring to our attention our guest for today, Dr. Kizzie. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
You know, looking at you on camera and meeting you in person is totally different.
I hope that's a nice thing.
I know. On camera you look, it's not like you don't look serious. You're very serious. But on camera, when meeting you in person, you're very kind.
Aww.
You look very young.
Oh, thank
and
you.
you're also very beautiful.
Oh, thank you so
Karibu sana
much.
to Her Standards.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here.
How are you feeling?
I'm fine. Very energetic today.
Oh, really?
Yes, and I'm glad to be in your presence.
Oh,
Yes,
nice
so
to
thank
have you. I mean, our guests have been writing to us and letting us that they wanted to know more about.
Oh, really?
Yes, about
Oh,
you.
that's interesting.
We're very excited to have you on the show.
Oh, so am I.
All
and
right.
I'd love to share as much as is needed. No problem at all.
Okay. Now, you see, when you talk about forensic medicine and forensic, you being a forensic practitioner,
Yes.
the thing that comes to mind is what I've seen in movies. You know, like crime scene investigations, and everybody, you know, appears the moment crime has happened, and they're collecting evidence and they're building a case. I don't know, is that what your work entails? Maybe you can just highlight what you do. I don't know.
Yes, well, yes, there's the whole CSI aspect of forensic medical work, which is crime scene investigations. And it can be as exciting as it looks in the movies. It actually can, but in real life it's quite scary. There's a scary element to it because it's a real life situation. Many times it can be dangerous. It could be maybe where there's been a terrorist attack or where someone has died, you know, so it can be quite sad, and there's some element of anxiety. But usually that's more with the dead body management team, or the forensic human identification team, or the forensic pathology team. They all deal with the dead. I say they because I'm more with the living. So I am a clinical forensic medical specialist. I deal with the living more than the dead. So I know everyone's like, what do the living need forensics for? So basically, forensics for the dead, is when you're trying to establish the facts and gather evidence that will aid the court and relevant stakeholders in understanding what caused this death. Now, the same happens for the living. What is it? The living who require forensic services are those who have sustained injuries. Some can be near fatal injuries, whether it's from violent crime or from even a motor vehicle collision. If you fall off a building, maybe if you're at work and you sustain an injury, those kinds of injuries require or are best performed by a forensic medical specialist. So my area of expertise is in examining injuries, documenting them, gathering evidence, for example, in sexual offense cases, because those are usually very complex ones. And documenting all this, packaging the evidence, and producing this evidence in a logical way in a court of law, so that the court understands what it is I did and what I think about it, what's my opinion. And this opinion impacts a trial, a court proceeding. And this is where it gives a lot of information to the court, who is deciding on whether a person is guilty or not guilty. So that's basically what clinical forensic medicine is.
It sounds so captivating.
Yes, it is captivating. It's also what I saw as different between, because I worked in the mortuary for almost 3 years.
Oh, you worked in the mortuary?
Yes, I did. And crime scenes where there's been a death,
Yeah.
very, very interesting. But now when I moved to the living, I found, first I was equally shocked that, by then I had not started my master's program. So I was also surprised to find that there's a whole world of people who need the same kind of services and care. But it's worse for them because they're still alive. So, I mean, it's a good thing, but the issue here is that the pain is continuing, it's getting worse, it's changing, it's changing, it's becoming, it's either getting better or worse. It can be debilitating, emotional and physical pain. And so I realized that there's so much more that needs to be done for this particular group of people. So the main cases that I would deal with are sexual offense cases, whether it's adults or children. Most of them are children. Child physical abuse cases who are either maltreatment at the hands of caregivers, so parents, mothers, fathers, grandparents. In a school, you'll be surprised how many children are abused in school. Yeah, motor vehicle collisions, domestic violence was very rampant when I was starting out, at least 20, 30 a day, me alone, and we were 3 doctors. Yeah, so those are the kinds of cases that we deal with. And yes, it's very interesting.
It's interesting.
Yes.
I don't know whether.
But sad.
Interesting, but sad.
Very sad, actually. The sadness is overwhelming.
Yeah,
yeah.
but still very interesting.
It's interesting because you know you're helping someone go through a very tragic period in their lives, a very difficult time. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned you were only 3 doctors. I know you were the first
Female
surgeon, and there are only 3 of you.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
there are 3.
Why is that actually?
That's a good question. I don't know why. But there is one police surgery in the whole country.
Yeah.
And this, from my research, is because in Nairobi, long ago, like in the 40s, I believe, there was no major hospital in Nairobi compared to the others. So in Nairobi, this police surgery was set up to do medical legal work. So you've heard of the P3 form.
We're going to talk about that, yeah.
Yeah, so that's basically what it was put, that's the kind of people that need a medical legal work, who need a P3 form. That's where they get it from, historically. But now this can be done in any government facility. Yeah, and so there was one doctor for a long time until, unfortunately, I think he was unwell, and then now I was posted to work there, and we were now 3.
3 versus how many Kenyans do we have in this country?
Millions.
48 million.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly. But that's Nairobi. But you see, it can be done, it's a devolved kind of service. It can be done in any public facility, public medical hospital. So outside of Nairobi, it's done in the county hospitals.
Why do you think there are only 3 of you? There's lack of interest, there's no training opportunities, or is it just an area that still needs to be developed?
I think it's an area that needs to be developed and needs to be well understood. Remember, even as we speak, when I joined that department, it was not known as a forensic department. Even now, it's not. It's just a place for the P3s to be filled. But there's a whole lot that goes behind the scenes. You're actually conducting a forensic medical examination. That is what should be the ideal setting. It should be a forensic medical examination process. So it's still very, it's a very new field that still needs to be better understood by all stakeholders, all the sectors, not in the police only, but everywhere. However, the service is still provided, and it's provided by very well-informed medical practitioners. So for me, I am the only female, and I have specialized in forensics. For the living, specifically. Yes.
Now, before I ask you why, I mean, there are many other fields of medicine you could have explored. I needed to know, like, in a typical day, how does your work look like? Like when you walk in and take a seat, and people, what exactly do you do?
So my work is so dynamic; it changes so drastically. I can tell you what my typical day used to be. Because now I've stepped away from patient work to give myself, I think there needs to be more policy level impact, so that's what I'm focusing on more. So before, I would walk in and there's like 100 people waiting, or more. Actually, it was more than that. And so you'd need to, there's defilement cases, there's defilement suspects, survivors, murder suspects, and then everyone else would be survivors of some form of violent some form of violent crime or something that caused an injury. So either a road traffic accident, or they were bit by an animal attacks, things like that. Yeah. So then you just begin to see the patients and examine them, document what you find on the P3 form, and sign it and leave it at that. Then you'll then be sent, the courts will summon you. Like now I would be summoned to court, and I'd go and give my evidence in court as an expert witness. So that's just to give my opinion on what I think. Do the injuries I see and the history, does it make sense? Or what do I think? You basically educate the court on what it is that they need to know about that particular incident and the injuries sustained.
The medical aspect.
Yes, the medical aspect.
You've gone to court, that is. That means you have to go to, you have.
Yes, I have to go to court. It's part of my work.
Have you ever been threatened?
Threatened by
collection
who?
Of
there
evidence.
Are many people who can threaten. So yes, I have.
Yeah, because I believe there are people who feel like they are above the law.
Yes, there are, and some, especially the highly educated ones, or those who are in, let's leave it at that. Some of them can be very adamant and try to threaten you, just being bullies, basically, to write what it is that they want you to write on the form. Yes, basically that. And then sometimes you have instances where you can be asked to change the documentation to suit a certain need. Yes. You can be you can be begged. Some will beg you and cry for mercy. Please don't write this down. Please just lie. Just but you can't do that.
Do you feel like you need security? I mean.
Oh yes, yeah. I felt that a lot, but I learned to just live with it. I pray about it and leave it at that, because I think if it wasn't for God, I would anything could have happened. Sometimes you're with murderers in a room that's closed and there's no exit. So you have to just be brave and go about your business. But you also learn to be tough, and put on a strong face. And sometimes you're so tired you can't afford to. You don't even feel the fear, really. After some time, I just kind of got on with it, which is, I liked that. I was very proud of myself at that stage. Yeah, so then there are times you can be threatened by other stakeholders.
Yeah.
They say, if you don't show up in court, we will arrest you, even when it's not your fault or you don't even understand what's happening. So yes, those are just some of the challenges about the field, but otherwise I think it's a nice place to work for me.
Okay, now I'm just listening to you talking about the challenges, which, I mean, they are humongous challenges in my opinion, but I mean, you're able to rise above that, which is commendable.
Yes, thank you.
Of all the fields of medicine that are available, the hundreds of the thousands of them, why did you decide that I'm gonna go with forensics, despite everything you have described?
Well, I knew from a very young age what I wanted to do. At that age, like 5, 6, I knew I wanted to be around death investigations and be part of that.
Why?
And I saw that the police are always at death. Yeah. Where there's a death, the police are there and they command everything. And I liked that there's power.
Oh, okay.
They have the power to stop people. People listen to them. The uniform looks good. And so I knew from that age that I wanted to do something along investigations and be working close with police. It's something I knew very early on. And so when I joined med school, it's because I knew where I was going. So for me, it was very clear what I'm doing. But I wanted to do forensic pathology. Only now when I was sent to this other side, I saw that there's an untapped field that needs more, it needs more knowledge and skills, so I stuck to that.
So is that what you wanted to? Is that the dream you had, as a young girl growing up, going into school? That's what you wanted to do? That's what I really wanted to do. That was number 1 on the list. Oh, then number 2 was flight attendant. Again, because of the uniform, the beauty. Diverse. I know,
just, it looks good, you get to travel, and you're just, you know, in an airport, everyone steps aside for you. I like that. And then there was music, and that
Music,
I
like
liked.
music singing.
Yeah, I
Or
liked
instruments.
music a lot. I was very involved in music as a child. It stopped when I left school because I went straight into med school, and
medicine.
that was the end of it.
Oh.
But yes, I did enjoy that a lot.
Where did you go to school?
I was in Nairobi Academy
Oh, really?
since I was 8.
Oh.
And there was a lot of music, like it was a major part of our school life. But also because I'm very musical. I was, now not so much.
Was there any influence from the parents?
Yes, my mother plays the piano, she was playing the guitar, she's busy in church, I sang in church as well, I was in the choir, played the drums in church. So yes, there is a musical element on my maternal side. Yes, I've never thought about that till you asked. Yes, and lots of music infusing the environment all the time. Yeah.
Your mom is a reverend.
She's a reverend and a dentist, yes.
Wow. That's a
Reverend Dr. Dorothy Shako.
Oh, Reverend Doctor.
Yes.
How was he growing up? And and in the house of a reverend.
Well, by the time she became one, I was a bit older, so there was conflict because I was a teenage girl. I didn't want to not wear my miniskirts and all those things. But eventually I began to appreciate it, especially when I joined this field, is when I thought, thank God my mother was so protective. Because there are so many predators everywhere.
I can imagine.
So I'm grateful that she was the way she was.
She raised you the way she did.
Yes, very grateful.
And did they have any impact in terms of your career choice?
No, I don't think so.
They just allowed you to go with it.
Yeah, they allowed me to do what I wanted. Of course, there was that aspect of, you want to do what?
Yeah.
Can't you be a pediatrician or something nicer? Why do you want to go to the mortuary? I was excited. When I was sent to the mortuary, I was so excited. Like I was doing somersaults, like, yes, finally, I'm getting my dream is coming true. So they didn't understand at all, but they didn't stop me. My parents never stopped us from pursuing what we wanted, and that's a very big, good thing for us as their children.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm amazed because many people actually find that morgue scene, they find it, what's the word?
Scary, overwhelming, taboo.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because for you it was like a dream come true. It was so exciting. How is that?
Yeah, because I got to. I think when you achieve, when your dreams are unfolding before your eyes, that is exciting. The fact that you're getting to work where you've always wanted to work because of whatever reason, that for me was a very good thing. So being able to be part of investigations that are establishing the facts, for me that's a win.
Wow.
Yeah, for me that's all I want to do. Establish facts.
Just watching you talking very excitedly about the work that you do, interacting with forensics and even your stint at the morgue. I mean, it's so interesting and exciting at the same time because naturally, we are Africans and people have this perception about what happens in the morgue and dead bodies. So how is that for you? What was your experience like the first time you encountered the dead body? What is it called? It has a medical term.
Cadaver.
A cadaver, yes.
Yes. Well, cadaver is more academic. A corpse. So, well, I interacted with a dead body for the first time in med school. When you're doing your anatomy, you have to. It was okay for me. I didn't have any negative feelings about it. Actually, I was still pretty excited because I thought this is, I'm finally getting to where I want to be. Then when I interacted with dead bodies, again as a forensic practitioner or in the forensic department, this was now at the mortuary. And I remembered again thinking, I'm finally here. You're just getting to meet your objectives and your goals one at a time. It takes long, but I was excited about that. And like I had said earlier, that I really enjoy establishing facts. And that for me is what keeps me going. I like being a part of a team that's establishing facts based on science and promoting science for justice, as opposed to speculation and there's a lot of guesswork, by the way. So I like promoting science for justice, and this is what keeps me going. This is what excites me all the time, whether it's with the living or the dead. And so when I was, the short time I did work in the mortuary regularly, this was one of the things that was driving me to keep going, and just being there. You know, it's different, but it's nice for me. I feel at home in that environment. Yes.
No, someone who's probably watching at home and they are just about to make that decision whether to go into forensics or not. Maybe what can you tell them? Your camera, you can look at the camera. Just,
Gosh, okay.
Yeah.
So if you're at home and you're thinking about getting into forensic medicine or forensic sciences, what you need to ask yourself is, why do you want to do this? Is it because you see it looking nice and flashy on TV? Because it's not nice and flashy. Honestly, it can be quite messy. Is it because you actually want to be a part of a team that's establishing facts? Are you promoting justice in the court system? Because that's what forensics is all about. It's about establishing evidence based on scientific information that will be shared in a courtroom to aid in investigations and prosecution. And that's what you need to ask yourself. Do I really care about this? Forensic practitioners are human rights defenders. Is this something close to your heart? Do you want to help in establishing facts to put a guilty person in prison, to help to aid in justice for victims of violence, victims of crime? This is what forensics is all about. So that's what you need to ask yourself.
Well, that's a good point to take a break. Today we have with us Dr. Kizzie Shako, a forensic practitioner and a human rights defender. We want to take a short break. When we come back, we'll talk about other initiatives that she does, including one that I'm really looking forward to hearing. It's called Vunja Kimya. Don't step away. We'll be right back.